Hello fiddlers! So I have a few questions that people have asked me about ornamentation. So I almost subconsciously now just add a lot of ornamentation into my playing, and this is mostly due to my Celtic roots because ornamentation is used a lot in Celtic music. And what I mean by ornamentation is little trills and slides, little kind of accents that you can put into the music that isn't actually written into the music. It's a very personal statement, and some players will use them a lot more than others. So I really enjoy putting in accents, and I'm just going to show you a few of the ornaments accents that I use and that are the most common in Celtic music. So we have a few. There starts off with a slide. And the slide is basically just what it sounds like. You just slide your finger up, or you slide it down. And there's also the roll. The roll is one of the trickiest ones to get. That's when you start with your intended note. You go one up above the note, one down below the note, and then back to the note. So it ends up sounding like, in slow motion, it sounds like this. Right? You play one above the note that you're supposed to be playing, one below, and then back to the note. But when you get it going fast, it actually sounds like this. And it's a super common Celtic ornament. There are also hits. Hit is also basically what it sounds like. You're playing the note that you're supposed to be playing in the piece, and you just very quickly hit one of your fingers above onto your string. Bagpipers use this one a lot as ornamentation. What else is there? There is, well, let's just focus on those three for now. So let's talk about the slide first. The slide is wonderful for violinists because in a way it can kind of be a cheat. If you're going for a note that's hard to reach, hard to be in tune, you can slide up and it'll sound cool, but it'll also help you find that note. You don't have to just land directly on it because you might not know exactly where it is. So it can be used for that, but it's also an extremely useful ornamentation tool and also extremely dangerous for the same fact that I just listed, because some people will just slide up to every note to try and get it in tune, and that can sound like a big mess if you're sliding every single note. So that's the slide. How to do a slide, let's talk about that a little bit. So you're going to start, let's say I want to play the note that I want to arrive at. Let's say that's an A1, so a B, okay, A1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger down below the A1, and then I'm going to slide up to the A1 and no further. Okay? That's one of the most important rules of sliding, is once you get to the note you're supposed to be landed on, don't go anywhere else. Very important, because otherwise it'll sound really wonky. So I'm going to start down below the A1 and I'm going to slide up to it. Now, for example, say I do slide past it. I really mess up and I slide past it. This is what it would sound like. Or I slide past it and then I'm like, oh crap, went too far and went back down. It would sound like this. Which, you know, could have an effect in some kind of music, but generally it's not the effect that you're going for in most type of pieces. So that's a slide up. You can also do slide down, and a slide down you have the same idea. So the note that you want to land on is the note that you don't want to go past. So if I'm starting above the note that I want to land on, say again I want to land on an A1, I'm going to start above an A1. Oops, I went too far there. And then I'm going to land directly on the A1. And that'll give you a crisp, clean slide. So that's slides. You can use them at the beginning of notes. You can also use them at the end of notes. So you can slide into a note. Or you can slide out of a note. Now, here's the only exception for when you actually start on the note that is intended rather than sliding to it. And that is at the end of a note. If I've been holding on to this note and I just want to very gently let it go, I can just very gently slide my finger down. And that's kind of a cool effect as well. And then you just kind of let the sound trail off because there's no note that you're headed to when you're doing that. Okay, so that's slides. Let's talk about rolls now. Actually, let's talk about hits because hits kind of help you with rolls. Once you got your hits down, rolls are a bit easier. So, hits. I like to do hits with my third finger. You can do them with your second finger, you can do them with your first finger. It's completely up to you. I just prefer my third finger because it feels better to me for some reason. So, what you want to think about when you're doing hits is you're not playing a note. And this is really important because often people will try to go, which is another type of format. I think that's called a mordant, I think. But it's not the one that we're going for here in Celtic music. So, pretend that you're poking a hot stove is what I always tell my students, right? If you're poking a hot stove, you wouldn't go to test it. You wouldn't push your finger all the way down. You wouldn't slam your finger into the stove, right? To test how hot it was. If you were pretty sure that it was going to be hot, you would go very quickly and you'd barely touch it. Just barely. And that's the feeling you want to get when you're doing a hit. So let's say that the note that I'm playing is an A1 and I'm going to hit with my A3. Okay? Barely touch it. You don't even press the string all the way down. It's more just like a little blip in the sound. And that's why it doesn't even really matter what finger you use because it's not going to make a huge difference in the sound. You're more just interrupting the vibration of the string rather than putting a new note in. So that's a hit. Now the reason why I said hits are helpful for rolls is because rolls have the same urgency, I guess, the same amount of speed needed to make them sound good. But they're a little bit more complicated and rolls take forever to learn. So I'm going to teach you the foundation, but expect to be practicing these for a little while to get them sounding right. I definitely had to. So a roll, like I briefly mentioned in my introduction, let's say that I'm playing an A2, a C sharp, a high A2. And I want to put a roll on this note. So how am I going to do that? A roll is when you play the note in the song, you play the note right above that note, you play the note right below that note, and then you go back to the note. Okay? So slow motion. Right? So note, note above, note below, note. And then all you have to do is get that really fast. So the middle note is the one that you don't want to have be too fast. You know, like at the beginning or the end, you can hold on to that a bit. But the note above and the note below, you just want those to speed by. So it's going to sound like this. And again, try and go for that hot stove kind of effect. Nice. Now, what you want to be doing with your bow when you do this, definitely all of this needs to be in one bow. You cannot go. I mean, I guess you could, that would be another effect. There's no wrong effects in music, but traditionally you want to have a roll all be in one bow. And you could do this with your first finger as the bass note as well. Then you go 1, 2, open 1. Or with your third finger as the bass note. Then you go 3, 4, 2, 3. You could do a scale all with rolls. So yeah, give it a try, practice it. They're lots of fun. Those are kind of the three main Celtic ornamentations, I guess, the ones that I just use all the time, even when I'm playing jazz and I'm not supposed to be putting Celtic ornamentation in there. It's just so part of my subconscious now. and they're lots of fun. So if you have any questions, if you have other Celtic ornamentations that you've heard of and maybe I can help you out with, let me know. And as always, check out my website. It's www.themusiciangirl.com. I meant .com. www.themusiciangirl.com. Thank you.